Hello, everyone. We're live. This is Nothing Happening with Art Pinsof. That's me. This is Nothing Media, which you probably already know. Um, right now, we have some people in the Zoom meeting. Anyone watching on YouTube or Facebook, there should be a link posted somewhere in the comments on how to join the Zoom if you like, or you could ask a question in the Facebook comment section or the YouTube comment section, and we'll get to that. I think Emerson will share those questions with me. So this is a meeting that it's a group discussion, and I'm the host. Oh. Somebody's having trouble with the Zoom link. Well, hopefully they'll figure it out. Yeah, this is a group discussion. I was just in silence before this started. Feels very strange to announce things, what this is. I feel like somebody who's new to this meeting should say what it is. Maybe Chris. Hey, Chris.
Hey, hello. What this is?
Emerson, I'm reading from two people that they can't get into the Zoom meeting. I'm not sure if there's anything I can do about that. Here,
I'll send him the link again. It's the same link for everyone, right? So, let me just see what's happening.
Yeah, here. Okay. Well, yeah, Chris. So have you been in this, or have you been watching this on YouTube, previous recordings?
I have. I learned about Nothing Media, Nothing FM, probably about 2-3 months ago. So I've just been following you guys and watching interviews, and yeah, really enjoy all the content on there. And then cool. I watched your last interview with her name was
Nikki.
Not Nikki. It was this week.
Maisie. Maisie.
Yes, I really enjoyed that. That was really sweet. Really sweet exchange between you two, and so yeah. So I contacted you, and here I am. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And so, what is your experience or background with any of that kind of stuff?
It's so interesting because I've never been asked that question, and I actually took a walk here. I'm actually in my office, my work office. I'm a psychotherapist, and I don't see clients on Fridays, so but I'm in here doing some admin work. And I actually just took a walk, and it's interesting you asked because I was like, what if somebody was to ask you that question? Because I know this is kind of like a discussion kind of group, and yeah. So I mean, you know, for me, what led me to this channel and basically, you know, without the whole life kind of story thing was, you know, about a little over 3 years ago, I had a major life incident where my mother passed away in front of me unexpectedly on her way to work. She was a nurse, and you know, I had been into spiritual type teachings and stuff prior to that, but that moment in the next 3 to 4 weeks was you know, there was a significant shift in consciousness, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was happening. I'm sure some of it was, you know, you could conceptualize it as trauma, and or just kind of a type of, you know, it could probably be conceptualized that way, but it was something else. And so then that led to, you know, some grief therapy with the specific, led me to start some grief therapy with somebody who had her husband and her were students of Adyashanti. So then when I was telling her about what was happening for me, she said, have you ever heard of non-dual teachings? And then connected me with Adyashanti, and then so that was so I started attending some of his retreats and just dove in, and here I am today.
Cool. Yeah. Ajashanti, was there anything in particular that he said that clicked or opened things up?
Yeah, so I mean, I was having these I didn't know what was happening in a lot of ways, and he was very helpful in the sense, I'm sure if you guys listen to him, he's he does talk a lot about life and psychology, the psychological aspects of life in a sense. So he was very helpful for me with a lot of kind of just the life stuff and the ups and downs I was experiencing in a sense, but just putting a lot of understanding into some experiences I was having. So I started meditating a lot, and then just having these kind of these glimpses and into these kind of opening glimpses into things would fall away, or there was there was one night there was an experience, and so I just didn't know what was happening, and he and others really helped me kind of understand that, and so that was the main connection.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Chris.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I'm going to welcome everyone else who's in the meeting. Apparently, if you click on the link on YouTube, it should take you straight here. I think some people might have trouble trying to log in from different devices. Zoom is kind of weird with that. Yeah, so something I've been having fun with lately is I downloaded an etymology dictionary app, and I've been having a lot of fun just looking at where all these English words come from, what their root meaning is. It's I find it to be a really fun pointer towards non-duality and sort of the play of duality at the same time, which is what I think words are. It's what everything is, really. Everything is both duality and non-duality, which is a strange thing to say, strange words. So, a lot of this comes from the Vedas historically. Veda means knowledge. And then the non-duality comes from Advaita Vedanta, which means the end of knowledge is non-duality. That's what those words mean. Some people seem to think non-duality is a new word, but it's not. It's just a translated word from Sanskrit, Advaita, not two, non-duality. And this is the end of knowledge because there's nowhere else to go. And words are just so much fun. I was looking up, I love getting surprised by where these words come from. Like, I looked up integrate the other day, and the root meaning of integrate from the etymology is untouched, ungrasped, or ungraspable. So it's interesting that integrate is often used as a process word. People will talk about integrating knowledge or experience, or integrating a non-dual state, if there is such a thing. But this is just, but it's hilarious because the word itself, integrate, means untouched. It reminds me of, Ramana Maharshi once said, how could anyone become realized? How could realization even be a thing? How could you make real that which is real? And integrate, very similar then. How could you touch this, which can't be touched, which always is? And then whatever sensation you feel in your body, that's it. This is all happening in your body. There's a school of Zen Buddhism that considers thought to be a sixth sense, just like all the others, just something that comes from the body, thought. which I like that because, you know, there's no one doing it. This is just what's happening. There doesn't need to be no thought. Perhaps there is no thought for some period of time. You know, I think some people in this group have experienced that for a day or an hour. Well, maybe not a day, I don't know. Maybe. But it doesn't matter. You know, thought is just something happening. This is all just happening. And at the bottom of it, there is no bottom. I want to look up the etymology of bottom now. Because it's so funny. And some words don't really go any deeper than they are. Yeah, bottom is one of those. Foundation in Greek. Yeah. I've been doing this process where I'll look up, oh, then what is foundation derived from? It's just a fun game, but it's something my brain enjoys. It's something my mind enjoys to just play with the words, to, you know, be reminded of how they don't have a ground, free falling, as Glenn J is saying in the chat. You know, where's this foundation? I have to look up foundation now and see where that comes from. Comes from the word found, comes from the word fund. Takes me a minute to look this up. Yeah, it's the same thing. Bottom, foundation, they all mean the same thing. Interesting that the word found, or to find, comes from that. So found, well, there might be another definition. There might be two finds, because there's two meanings. I won't look that up right now. But, you know, where is the bottom of all this? You know, there's the Zen saying of the bottom of the bucket falls away. You know, what does that mean? You know, generally it seems like people in non-duality seekers are seeking a bottom. They're seeking an answer. They're seeking something stable, a handhold, or they're trying to hold on to the one they have and say that is this unspeakable, ungraspable thing. The word thing derives from the word assembly or council. The word thing derives from people coming together to decide something. And there's a lot of words in spirituality that mean to come together, like the Beatles song, Come Together. Samadhi means to come together. Religion means to come together. Yoga means to come together. And I'm sure there's some more. We can't get closer than words. I could sit here and see if there's a transmission of Shaktipat. That's something some people do. But what is Shaktipat? That's energy. Is this energy? I mean, I have been in the presence of sages where my mind becomes silent, or my body becomes energized, or my heart becomes flooded with incredible emotion, which I feel a little bit of right now. You know, I used to call this samadhi or something like that. Yeah, I used to call it samadhi. But what is not samadhi? This coming together of life as this, as a Zoom meeting, as a YouTube video, you know, as your breakfast. How is that not samadhi? Everything in space and time has come together for this moment that doesn't really exist. It's just a word. It's just a flash in a pan, moment to moment, experience to experience, ungraspable, unintegratable, and yet always integrating deeper, but not to get anywhere. It's just the movement of energy among energy with energy. It's the flowing of the river into itself, through itself, by itself, to itself, for itself. The river rivering itself, love loving itself. And where do you go from there? Wherever you want. Wherever the river flows through your body mind. This is all infinity. Infinity apparently being filtered through body minds. If an infinity is just a placeholder word, how could there be a thing called infinity? How could there be a coming together of infinite? Doesn't make sense. And as so many speakers say, this doesn't make sense. This is both a felt experience and something utterly unexperienceable. It's in every word, and yet it's utterly undescribable. And for those who are really seeking adamantly to try to end something or get somewhere, it might not help to hear this, but whatever's happening is already perfect. It's already whole. It's already complete, just as it is. Even the seeking is complete. The sense of knowing is complete. The sense of not knowing is complete. You know, love is a beautiful word. Light is a beautiful word. I looked up the derivation of light, no, of love. Love doesn't really get anything else. There's just other words for love. Like, so love means to, the etymology goes back to desire. And if you look up desire, desire means star. It means something coming from a star or to a star. It's the seeking of the light of a star. But who is that star? Where's that love coming from? That light of the star. There's some phrase in Sanskrit of self-effulgence, which means the light is shining from itself. I think this might get close to the truth, even though there is no truth and you can't get close or further away. So before I open it up, now that my brain's warmed up a little bit, just let everyone here know I host these meetings twice a week, every week. And if you want to know about that, you can add me on Facebook, Art Pinsof, send me a message, or I'll post my email for those who aren't on Facebook. So with that being said, this is a fairly open meeting. The only thing that I ask is for no one to take up too much time, or to be mindful of everyone else and to not be too authoritarian if you can help it. But, you know, we all do our best. And, you know, what does authoritarian even mean? You know, these words all start to dissolve, but, you know, we're trying to have an open space where everyone can feel safe to share and explore. So I think I've said enough for the moment. And also, if I have to go away for a moment, Chuck Hillig is my deputy today, and he will fill in for me because I have some health issues and I might have to step away for a minute at some point. So let's see, Chuck, would you like to introduce yourself? Say hello.
Well, hi everyone. I think I know most of you, or I've seen you before. Haven't been a while though. For Michael. Hello, Michael. Some of these other names are new to me, and I'm happy to be here. Art asked me to kind of help him out for today, so this is unusual because I'm usually here only on Wednesdays and Sundays. But it's nice to see people having the interest to want to gather and talk about nothing, and enjoy each other's desire and and quest to get to a place where you're already at, there was a couple things that you had mentioned, Art, that I wanted to circle back to. And one was, you talk about the end of knowledge. What did you say that was, the Vedanta, or what was the specific?
Yeah, well, Veda means knowledge, and Vedanta means the end of the Vedas, which would mean the end of knowledge.
Yeah, it struck me that I'm wondering, are they talking really about the end of knowledge, or are they referring more to the end of the knower of the knowledge?
Well, the historical way I've heard it explained, although I'm at the point now where I don't want to take anyone's word for this, but but the way, because I think that's a perfectly valid description, Chuck. But the way I've heard it explained historically is the end of the Vedas. What they mean by that, what the authors might have meant by that, is that this is the closest it gets. It's the highest teachings. What they mean by the end of the Vedas is they save the best for last, and the best for last is there's nothing to get.
Nothing to get.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. The big gift, when you open it up, it's empty.
Yeah, and the Vedas are long. So gosh, imagine
Yeah.
Seeker from 2,000, 3,000 years ago, who 4,000, 5,000 years ago, whenever no one really knows how long a lot of the Vedas are. Imagine that they might have been reading that and studying it and memorizing it. And then you get to the end and it says, that's all, folks.
I remember there was a book out, I think it was in the 1970s or so, is what to do until the Messiah comes. Anybody hear of that or familiar with it? But it was like, we got to do something. We're just waiting around for this enlightenment, for this Messiah, for something to happen, something other than this. As if, if this is not good enough, then I would suspect nothing is good enough. It'll never happen, never show up. This is truly it.
Yeah, this is it. Is this it? Well, okay. So let's see. So Messiah derives from Christ. The derivation of Christ is to rub or anoint. Christ was a name that meant the anointed.
Mm-hmm.
Anoint means to pour oil on as a ritual of sort. This is like the word sacred. It means to make sacred. But how do you make sacred what is already sacred? I see this light shining in Michael Markham's camera right now. That's really beautiful. And it instantly reminds me of how he'll quote Jesus in this quote of, you are the light of the world. And it's said that the true guru, any whatever teacher worth their salt in this fieldless field, they're gonna say, you're it. Whatever you say about them, they'll say, yeah, that's you. Or the old Vedanta saying is God, guru, and self are one and the same. You are the light of the world. Everything you project onto this world is you. Where else could it come from? All of the meaning, all the significance, all the sensory experience. And what's behind all of that? Or at the core of it, the center of everything? You. And who are you? Let's see. Someone who hasn't shared before. We have quite a few new faces in here. Mark Siegel, would you like to share?
Sure. Hey, everybody.
Welcome, Mark.
My first time on a Zoom for non-duality. And I just wanted to say hi. And, I just don't have that much to share. But I'm
Well,
open to any questions. So,
no, that's fine.
I mean, really, what could be said about nothing, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't even know what my next thought's going to be, right?
yeah.
So, I don't know. I just don't know. Other than this, of course, because what else is there? I mean, there's just this. Can I make something out of this? Can I make something out of nothing? Apparently I can. I'm doing it right now. Right? So that's all I have. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mark. Can you make something out of this?
Couldn't see it.
Question. No, it's.
I don't know.
I mean, it's before all this, chop wood, carry water, and then after all this, chop wood, carry water. So everything is valid,
Well, it's valid, but it's empty.
Yeah.
It's part of the relative conversation and the relative existence that we think we have. And we perpetuate that with more of the same, more elusive thought, if you will. But after it's all said and done, none of it's going to help me. How is any of that going to help me here in this moment right now? It can't. Because it doesn't mean anything. Because this is already it. If this is already it, what else can be said about it other than making more something out of nothing? So yeah, apparently it's real. Apparently we share certain meanings, if you will, within our memory or whatever you wish to call it. But those meanings are still specific to our individual dream. And when this body dies, that dream dies, what happened to all that relative truth that I held on to before that nobody really understood or knew about anyway? It was all rather meaningless. But, we look for meaning, and meaning still stays important to us on different levels. Perhaps it's to keep the body alive. I mean, nobody can answer that, but we're often deluded by the meaning that appears because we think we are that meaning, first of all, and we think that we're the doer of those thoughts. So then we get lost in that meaning, and then we want to perpetuate more of it because, after all, if we think we know something, it feels good, right? So we want more of that.
Yeah.
And we get further lost in thought and meaning. But again, what good is any of that right now? It's just made up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally worthless. It has no value. But it's fun. And why it's fun, I can't explain it. And why it appears, I can't explain that either. I can only pretend to know what's going on around me because I'm looking for meaning. And that's what, I think that's what drives us, even though if I don't even know what my next thought's going to be, then what good meaning going to do for me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's all I have
Thanks, Mark.
for right now. Anyway, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So, a word that's been resonating for me recently. Maybe we could hear Houston speak on this at some point. is the word both. You know, it's both meaningful and meaningless. You know, what use is this? What use is any meaning? I don't know, but it does something apparently, and it leads to the next thing. It doesn't end the things, it doesn't end the seeking. And that's what speakers are generally pointing to when they say things like, you know, there's nothing to get. You know, hopelessness is somehow the final bridge to cross, apparently, to realize that there's no, you're not going to get this. Somehow that is liberating in a way, because the mind is trying to figure things out, and minds are amazing. Like the human mind is, you know, might be the most incredible invention in the history of the universe. And so it's quite a paradox that, you know, that it leads to such incredible suffering from its own devices. And a lot of that suffering has to do with trying to wind up somewhere where everything will feel okay. When right now, this is already just okay. It's the only way it can be. And in accepting that, there might be a feeling of okayness. Whatever that means.
But you can't choose to accept it.
You can't choose. I don't know what I can choose or not choose. I mean, it seems like I can focus my eyes to the right or to the left. It seems like there's a choice. So again, it comes back to this word both. So ultimately, science might be showing us that every thought that I appear to have was already concocted in some part of my brain 7 seconds earlier. But that doesn't mean it doesn't appear to be the way it is. And the way things appear has its own value, just as much as it doesn't. It's both. So that's where I really want to land on that. And I know there's nowhere to land, but if we can land in the holding of opposites, or the seeing of the opposite in itself, the emptiness and the fullness, I mean, what does that mean? How is there emptiness in the fullness? Or how is there fullness in the emptiness? Why is that an ancient, you know, Buddhist saying? You know, you just can't get further than that. It's wholeness. But there's a paradox with words. Words themselves, in fact, I've the so-called most direct pointers or clearest words that point to non-duality, supposedly, allegedly, you know, like nothing. They're simultaneously the most dualistic. It's both. You can't think of a word more dualistic than no thing, because you have to have a thing. This is why the ancient people in India, they came up with the word non-duality, Advaita, is because they didn't want to call it oneness. Oneness implies there might not be one. So in this universe where we can't escape two, we can't escape polarity in our perception, in our experience, the closest that they conceived we could get was to say, this is not two. This is not the subject or the object. And somebody in the chat asked about awareness. I mean, awareness, same thing. I just looked up the derivation of it. Aware comes from Proto-Indo-European language that means to lift up, to hold up. After that, it acquired the meaning caution. So aware implies caution in its root. Beneath that, it implies something to look at, something that's held up that you're aware of. So awareness is a word that some saints and sages, authors, speakers, whatever, they use it to describe that which can't be described. Nisargadatta did this. Nisargadatta had a hierarchy of I don't even know the word for it. Harvey might know the word as a philosophy professor. Welcome, Harvey.
Welcome,
Yeah.
Art. I didn't hear all of that. I just got on.
Well, yeah, and it's funny to try to need a word for it. Like, who cares? We don't need a word for it. But Nisargadatta, in a nutshell, he would say things like, consciousness is the contents of consciousness is all that you can know, and this arises from the body. He was very clear about that. And he suggested that there was something called pure consciousness, which is consciousness void of its content. And then he said, if pure consciousness is experienced, then something beyond that could be experienced, called awareness. Why did he say these things? Why did he say there are these levels from contents of consciousness arising from the body to pure consciousness to awareness? Somewhere in that spectrum, you've got the I am, you've got all these other things people could put in there that he said at different times. Nisargadatta was a poet, and it's amazing because it's like he inspired countless people with poetry about that which can't be put in words. And he gives brilliant pointers, brilliant suggestions, responses to all sorts of questions. I love Nisargadatta. I still listen to things from him on YouTube every now and then because it's just very beautiful to me. But yeah, it's very simple. The core teaching of all teachers is the same. It's that you're already that which you seek. Harvey, would you like to comment on anything I just said?
Sure. I think with some people and even with Nisargadatta, there's in a sense, I'll call it maybe a type of discovery, or there's at the moment you think you know what it is, then you tend to label it, then you tend to handhold onto it. But ultimately, it's kind of a freedom from the known. There's whatever label or whatever one would think it is, it's not that. It may seem like something that you know, but ultimately there's a letting go, a constant letting go, to where it's not even known. There's not a knowing, it's just an unknown. And in fact, that's actually the title, I believe, of a book by J. Krishnamurti, Freedom from the Known, which is actually very significant. Because once you think you know it, you don't.
Yeah, beautifully put, Harvey. Girish.
Hello everyone. Nice talk as usual. Very good people, very good souls. I want to share something that I remember one thought or quote from Rumi. The silence is the word of God, or something like that. And other else is poor meaning or poor translation. When we are at the stage of nothingness, we can't describe that state. When we going to describe that state, we become in duality. We lose that state, and the mind creating lots of its own play, giving meaning. You can't give meaning. There is meaning is not. There is no meaning at that stage. There is no meaning. Nothingness also the word. There is no word. just pure silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Girish. Beautiful. Yeah, Ramana said, silence is perfect language.
When we said silence, we use word silence. That time also we lose.
Yeah. Anyone else who'd like to speak, feel free to unmute yourself. Maybe Houston, would you like to comment on the duality of non-duality, the bothness, or neitherness, maybe?
Yeah, language is so funky because language and meaning hide in the attempt to reveal. And it limits attention, which really doesn't have any limits. And I'm not sure exactly how to express it in a way that both dualities are there. We normally focus on one instead of both at the same time. Non-duality and duality. Duality is just an expression or an expansion of, or whatever, an extension of non-duality, because it's made of the same stuff. Nothing being everything, appearing as something apparently separate, but it's still all the same thing. And when we say, well, it's just this, well, it can't be just this, because it's both everything. It's yin yang, everything. It's all that together at the same time. It's appearing and not appearing at the same time. It's full and empty at the same time. It's expanding and contracting at the same time. Profound and subtle. All those happen at the same. Everything happens spontaneously and simultaneously. What happens if we remove the charge that we put on things, so we're able to, so it's appears to experience all of it at the same time versus this or that? If it appears from a point of neutrality, I guess I'm just putting words here. If neutrality shows up and there's no charge for or against anything, then they're both there, and they're both seen, experienced, or whatever. No meaning to it. It's just all there. So it doesn't mean anything, but it does mean something, because that's non-duality. That's not two. It's all this stuff. And no matter what word I use, whether I say it's an experience or it's not an experience, it's a happening or it's not a happening, it's sensation or whatever, or it's not a sensation. It's all of that together, and then we try to use language and meaning to grok it. And
Yeah,
that's all I can add to it.
it's great. Thank you. Houston. Beautiful. I looked up the derivation of neutral. Neutral derives from meaning not to. It means neither of the two, neither the one or the other.
That would be oneness, I would suspect. I mean, or non-duality, or it can appear that way. And
Yeah, it's neutral. You're not taking either side.
yeah,
As soon as you take one side, that's part of the yin yang.
then you're focusing the awareness
Right.
or attention, because the energy flows where the attention goes, and builds and strengthens and charges whatever's there, wherever that focal point is. And if it expands to everything, then it's just, if it was a loop, it'd be a recursive loop going back to itself. If it's stillness, it's stillness. It's still and moving at the same time. Doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. It's just this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Houston. It's very nice. Girish?
Yes, hello. Recently, I am observing that when we are in meditation or in silence, we observe that nothingness. We try to, actually, it's happened. We observe nothingness. Or another way, when we are doing work, there is no mind. We are doing simply work. There is also, we can say, nothingness. There is no one to give meaning. When there is one who giving meaning, then we lost that state. In day-to-day life, we working as usual. That is also the power of one nothingness. Or we are in meditation, just that is the power of one nothingness. But when the arise of one who want to give meaning, then it's lost. Recently, I am observing this, working on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Girish. So we have some comments from YouTube. Steve says, always chasing the dopamine hit of knowledge. Yes. Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things that I've heard Jim Newman say is that seeking is just knowledge. It's the acquiring of knowledge, which always leads to more. It's like being alive is, it's like we're all addicted to life in a sense. Like there are 12-step programs for people that, that need help with things that go out of control in that way. But we all really have that, and we all have this, we're all alcoholics in a bar being told that the drink's not going to get you anything. We're all that. Because that's this dopamine hit of life, of seeking, of everything. And it's that's why for me, the word surrender resonates so much. Ramana said that some people have the self-inquiry path more, some have the surrender path more, and it's just a genetic thing or whatever. Everyone's different. And for me, surrender is it. I don't have a restless mind that's trying to figure something out. Well, I do, but I don't know. See, it collapses, it disappears. Trying to figure out disappears, and that's the surrender. Surrendering to what is could be surrendering to an idea, surrendering to an idea of God, an idea of love or oneness. All of this, according to Ramana, will take you to the same place. If anyone's familiar with Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, this is what he was getting at. He was I'm not sure if he popularized meditation in the way that it's known now. I think he might have, because he's kind of the source of what a lot of people reference when they talk about meditation and how it works on the deeper levels. And the way it works, and this is what Ramana repeated as well, is the way it appears to work, is that you focus the mind on something, and then it's like the stick you're using to stir the fire. You put that stick eventually goes in there too. And then there's nothing. You know, the clearest tool will dissolve itself and show you there's nothing. The practice will dissolve itself. Lily asked, how does that relate to spiritual practice and seemingly gradual awakenings? There's a Tibetan Buddhist phrase that Rick Archer says in a lot of his interviews, that not a warning not to mistake understanding with awakening, and not to mistake awakening with liberation. And so awakenings happen, you know, there's different words for that. I mean, an awakening is just an experience that might last a certain amount of time. And liberation is seeing that it's all awakening. You know, this word understanding, even, I looked up the derivation of that this past week, and because understanding, I think, gets a pretty bad rap. People often say, oh, understanding, that's not good enough. That's not going to get you anywhere. And of course, nothing will get you anywhere because you're already here. But understanding derives from to be with your intestines. It comes back to the gut. It comes back to feeling something in your gut. There's no thought. There's no understanding and understanding. There's just, it's, you know, in the 60s, Robert Heinlein, or was it 50s, 60s, he wrote the book Stranger in a Strange Land, and came up with the word grok, which attempts to say the same thing. An understanding that's fully felt and experienced. When somebody says something, you duplicate it fully, or you feel it with your whole body, with total empathy and emotion. But understanding already means that. This is the seeking of humans, always trying to find better words. You know, as Michael says sometimes, stacking shadows to reach the moon. How many shadows do you need to stack to reach the moon? And Lily says, words in language like funky make language both meaningless, confusing, annoying, misleading, dual, noisy, fill in your word, and fun to hear. How funky is that? Yeah. Well put, Lily. I mean, this is all play. The word color is derived from a word meaning, the root means to hide or to cover. The color covers what is underneath. The word person means mask. It derives from, in Greek plays, when they would wear clay masks to play characters. That's where the word person comes from. So what's the real person? What's the real mask? What's the real color underneath all the colors that are hiding what really is? But the color is what's beautiful. You know, I love multiple colors in artwork, in a sunset. You know, I had a friend that was an artist, and he made all these amazing paintings, but he did this thing where he found like an old door on the side of the road, and it had 3 layers of paint that it had been painted over. It was just a broken, beat up old door. And he took the door and he laminated it. And it became the biggest hit at his art show. Everyone loved this door because it had 3 layers of paint. And when you laminated it, it looked beautiful. You could just stare into it. It had incredible depth. You know, like, that's what language is like. It's like multi-dimensional space that our brains seem to create with words that we can look into for infinity. We can come up with new words forever. We could find new meanings in words forever. We could just, get to the root of what these words mean for us or collectively forever. There's no end to it. There's no bottom. Benjamin, I was wondering if you would like to share.
Yeah, the thoughts that came up when you were talking in the beginning led me to Wittgenstein has this two beautiful lines. One is that language is as complicated an organism as we are. And the other one is the meaning of a word is its use. And it feels like that kind of helps, for me, it helps me go, well, I don't have to know the meaning. I just have to understand how it's being used. And it has a video game feeling in that it's open-ended, like you just said, it's infinite in terms of expression. And then the other thought I had is there's a way to interrupt the 7-second idea is just roll for the next thought you're gonna have, the beginning of the letter. So that becomes play for me. That seems fun. Yeah. Where if one cannot speak of, one must remain silent. That's Wittgenstein too. So that's all I had at the moment. I really am appreciating everyone's ideas. I feel like we're just computers just spitting out poems. So it's pretty beautiful.
Thank you, Benjamin. Beautiful what you're sharing, what you just shared. I love all those ideas you just said. And yeah, I'm going to try to find a way to get artificial intelligence involved in these groups as soon as possible. So from one computer to another, from a meat computer to a electricity 1 and 0 computer. Let's see, Garish, I see you have your hand raised, but I want to try to mix it up a bit and see who else wants to speak. Oh, Michael just started walking. I was about to see if Michael wanted to speak. Let's see. Are you sitting down, Michael? Would you like to share?
I am, but I disappeared just a second. There I am.
Hey, Michael. Good to see you.
You touched on so many things. Everyone did. It's like, we talk about this improvisational jazz when everybody's sparkling with ideas, and somehow that resonates inside of our brain. And it's an orchestration of commonality, this language we share. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you.
I loved what everyone says. It's like a piano or a concert where you want to remember a certain part, and then you slip into the next part, and then you can't remember. And so I love this interplay of ideas. I believe, this brain believes, that we cannot find meaning in words because we emerge within the words. We emerge within the shared languaging. So the brain fabricates a pseudo-reality, an objectified overlay, and searches within that for its own meaning. Searches for the meaning of self, when the self is merely a beautiful mental fabrication. So the brain, through its sense of self, is searching for meaning in the areas, in the arena in which the self emerges. It can't find a deeper meaning to a word because a word is merely a label, and you can find layers of meaning to that I think are tidbits of knowledge that give us that adrenaline, that dopamine rush that someone was talking about. We think we have it. And I believe this isn't it. That's just a foothold, a handhold in this chase of the brain trying to discover its own relevance, when all the time it is the objectification. Its sense of self is the objectification, and that is the jewel. I see the self as the precious jewel in the universe, the most highly evolved. The human brain and its sense of self, through its sense of self, allows it a glimpse into the wonder and awe of the universe. only through imaginary separation. And trying to understand that, or the brain's trying to understand that, with the use of words will never happen. It's the sense of self is nothing other than that flowing objectified perspective that it's just so beautiful, this glimpse, tiny glimpse of the world that the brain gets, that we can love each other. Only there does love exist and beauty. I love what everybody brought up. Art, I loved what you said about the Christ. I think there is a second coming, but it happens within. We are the light of the world. Our light goes out, and reflects back from other mirrors out there, other universes. We can never see ourselves because we look inward and see nothing. There's nothing in there. But there's love. There's somehow we can talk across our separation, our loneliness, our longing. Sentience is longing. Sages long too. Mr. Gadada longed to speak of this. So did Ramana. Sometimes he spoke in silence, and that's okay too. But we are this longing, this aching need that we find the seekers have. Is merely the longing. I think that can shift once it's embraced, not accepted, and that's not a choice. I'm not suggesting a path, but something happens, can happen in the brain, where it lets go of all the existential angst. There is an advantage to this. It's possible for the brain to float through its magical world, knowing that there is no magical world. It all exists within itself.
Michael,
I thank everybody for what they said. It was truly wonderful.
well, you just spoke a symphony yourself, Michael. That was beautiful.
No, you love.
And so very intriguingly, Night Sky Songa asks, does this meeting come with a vomit bag? Well, maybe it should, Night Sky. I mean, the funny thing is that this could take you anywhere. This could take you to hell or heaven. But wherever you go, you're going to come back where you are, and you never left. 609, good to have you here. Yeah, and you mentioned, that there's a philosopher AI app. Yeah, actually, embarrassingly, I've been talking to an AI for about 6 months now, using a similar app. It's the same AI though. So I want to create a video before anyone else does. I hope no one beats me to it. I want to have the first AI interview about non-duality. So that'll come up on YouTube pretty soon. I just need to figure it out.
Which one are you using?
There's one that's a little more flexible. This is a bit of a hack for anyone out there that wants to talk to an AI. I guess you could message me privately to get all the instructions, but there's another app called AI Dungeon, which is designed to be a role-playing game, but you could sort of reprogram it to talk about anything.
All right.
Yeah, the philosopher one, I wasn't as impressed with. I'd love to talk to Duncan Trussell about it. I met him once at a comedy show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love Duncan. He's
It
hilarious.
looks like you have to pay for them now too. It's like $3 for 10 inquiries. Yeah.
Yeah, and the AI Dungeon also costs a monthly fee because, that's a whole, the company that came out with it, eventually these technologies will be free and everywhere. But right now they're kind of the bleeding edge of what's happening. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Let's see, Chris, would you like to share? Chris, you have your hand raised. And then I'll go back to you, Garish.
Yeah, I just wanted to share real quick when Ben and Michael were sharing it. It's got me thinking about how you know, it's like, you know, there was a story, there was always a story, I kind of like a story I was told at one point in life that like, this isn't it, you know, it's somewhere else, you know, it was like almost indoctrinated in, you know, my belief system in a sense. And, you know, just the realization now, you know, just when Michael was sharing and Ben was sharing, it's just like, you know, just, you know, there was always ways of trying to escape this, you know, that what I was searching for was somewhere else. And, you know, just to be, you know, like just, you know, this all is just, I don't know what's happening here. You know, I don't, at the end of the day, you know, and you guys were talking about quotes, and this, you know, Nisargadatta, one of my favorites is, I think he said something about, you know, wisdom tells me I'm nothing and love tells me I'm everything, and my life just flows in between. And that's always been my experience. You know, it's always been, you know, but I didn't, you know, I, you know, through that story, it was like, no, but that's, you know, I was told that you're not it. That's not it. This isn't it. And, you know, just to look out at these trees right here, you know, and it's just, this is all just spontaneously happening. You know, my hands moving. I don't know how my hands moving. I don't, you know, I don't know anything. And it's so fun to sit with everybody here and just talk about it and try to put it into words. And, you know, and like, yeah, like Ben was saying, you could, you know, just the past 30 words I just said, if you were to ask me the meaning of them, I probably wouldn't even be able to tell you the meaning of them. But, you know, I know how to use them. It's just amazing, you know. And yeah, when I look inside, you know, I don't find anything, but then there's this apparent merging just with everything, and in that is my heart opens, and it's just, and then it feels like pure love, you know. So I'm just so happy to be here, you know, today, you know, not trying to get somewhere else or be somewhere else, and this is enough. And you know, so I'm grateful for this meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Glad to have you here. Yeah, that Nisargadatta quote doesn't really get better than that. Yeah, and yeah, because the trying to get somewhere, it's like there's the whole like Zen saying of there's mountains, then there's no mountains, then there's mountains again. Shankara said, you know, Brahman is reality, the world is illusion, the world is Brahman. And these are all saying the same thing. You know, between my life flows the stillness and the movement. And it's all stillness and movement. You know, it's all what's happening, it's all allowed, and it's all nothing. It's both. Neither, both. But if we get stuck in our head, it's like, yeah, the reminder of love is great, because like Nancy Nethercutt says, you know, love is the best part of the dream. Love is what brings us together. It's what heals on this dualistic world. Love is light, light is love. I can swim in the duality with light and love. I don't like negating it so much, because it doesn't feel like it's anything anyway. Clear. It's not tangible. Why do I need to negate love or light? It's what is. It's the best part of what is. It's the clearest sense of what is love, light, truth, silence, stillness. Yeah, maybe you could get closer to it by saying it's not those things. Maybe you don't. It's both. Garish.
Hello. Yes, I write little poem. I want to read. We are not a part of life. We are alive. Yes, we are alive. The life, it has the power of enjoying itself. The life has the power of observe itself. The life has power of thinking on itself. Yes, we are alive. Enjoying duality and non-duality also. Yes, we are alive. Enjoying everything and nothingness also. Yes, we are not part of life. We are alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Girish. Beautiful. Yeah, we are life. And so someone in the comments on YouTube said, Sheol Clamor said, Satan is another paradoxical idea. So it inspired me to look up the derivation of the word Satan. And it means the adversary. It means to oppose. To oppose. And I looked up oppose. The derivation of oppose is to place in front of. So, yeah, what can you place in front of what is? I mean, humans are naturally afraid of the unknown and the known. I mean, our minds are basically evolved to solve problems. Somebody said earlier about the dopamine hit from figuring something out, from learning something, leads to wanting more of it. That's a survival function of a body, of life. It just is. You know, if there wasn't a pleasure reward system for figuring out an idea, then humans wouldn't have done it, you know, and we wouldn't have survived, apparently. I mean, maybe that's true, maybe that isn't what I just said, but that's, you know, an evolutionary psychology idea that resonates for me. And let's see who, I'm gonna read some more of the comments from YouTube. So Sim says, just because something is ineffable doesn't mean we can't talk about it. Absolutely. Chuck, I love how this is something you say at the beginning of some of your meetings. You'll say, or your talks for science and non-duality, you'll say, we can't talk about this, but once we acknowledge that, some kind of magic can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. We're driven to describe the indescribable, but it's useless. And one of my favorite quotes by Chuang Tzu is where he asks the question, he says, where can I find a man who has forgotten words? He is the one I want to talk to. There seems to be an inherent danger. I mean, I'm recognizing it more and more in not seeking, that we're driven to desire, to fear, to externalize something that we can go up against and feed and stoke the fires of dualism. But that all seems to be somehow, for me anyway, contained and maybe finds its origin in a belief about the linearity of time. That often I've seen myself like on a path, and then I had a past, you know, a second ago, all the way back to my first memories and all the different schools that I went to and people that I talked to and relationships that I had and the adventures and misadventures, and looking forward into a fog bank and predicting and expecting and hoping and longing for some kind of future that I'm just fashioning in order to keep myself together, to have this future that I'm living into, to imagine myself in the future. But, you know, this whole, what would happen if I just got rid of all of the linearity? If I did not put myself on this timeline, like I was coming out of a remembered past and going into some kind of imaginary future. If I just stopped and said existence is contained in and limited by this moment, and that there is no other existence other than this very moment that I'm in. There's no existence in the past. I don't exist in the past. I don't exist in the future. Existence is only here, and that existence consists only of and formed by who I think I am. But existence is very different than reality, because reality is who I actually am, and that is timeless. It's limitless. It has no no container, nothing is contained in that. But the thought of me being in this space gives me that existence, and everything exists only in this one moment. Existence is confined to this moment, limited by it. So those are just some of the things that came up to me and during, you know, listening to everybody.
Thank you, Chuck. Very cool. Yeah. So some other comments here from YouTube. There's a discussion about paradoxes that was going on YouTube. And so everything in this dream traces back to a paradox, says Steve. Someone else says, no, there is no paradox. And then he says, oh, okay. Then Lily says, beat them to it. Then someone else says, only knowing creates paradoxes that don't exist if we speak about life. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, polarity, duality. There's nothing you can talk about that doesn't create a duality, which creates a paradox. So I get that. Natural freedom says, life exists here. Why make it to nothing? Why make it into nothing? Maybe they meant. With me or without me, I am limited to this body until this body dies, right? Why not just live the life? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's really, you know, that's like the beauty of so many Zen teachers, and I'd say Yuji Krishnamurti, just abandon everything and just what appears is what's here. This body is here, the senses, that's it. Who needs more than that? All these highfalutin ideas of enlightenment, God, you know, this is God, this is enlightenment, this is samadhi. You know, enlightenment's such a funny word. It's like, it has one real meaning in the center, which is light. And then it has like 3 or 4 like suffixes. It's such a beautiful metaphor for how overcomplicated the mind makes this, you know? Like someone could have just said, oh, it's light, you're light. But they had to add the en light. Then they had to, and the enlighten, then the enlightenment. You know, it's just, but yeah, you do have to add the color. Life has color. Look at all the colorful perspectives. Somebody asking about a vomit bag, you know? I mean, let's see, 609, I don't know if you want to be named or not, but would you like to share?
No, I don't know why it just has that on there. I don't ever use this computer, so you can say my name, Art. No, I don't have any there.
Great to see you, Ria.
Good to see you. I'm homesick, so I thought I'd hop on today. So no, thank you. I don't have anything to say.
Thank you for being here. I hope you get well soon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Kathy or Randy, if either of you would like to share. If not, that's cool. Oscar and Malk, I don't know either of you. Either of you would like to unmute and share, you're welcome to, or raise your hand. Let's see, what else is in the YouTube comments? Sim says, there is a moment in each day, oh, this is where Satan came from, that Satan cannot find, nor can his friends find it, but the industrious find this moment and multiply it. Yeah, so that's duality, right? Got to find it, and something stopping you from finding it. You could call it Satan. You could call it the reactive mind, as they do in Scientology. You know, you could call it, you know, seeking, as they do in modern non-duality. You know, the seeking is what's stopping you from finding what, and there's nothing to find. You know, Benjamin, you feel like rolling that 7-sided dice, and no, maybe that'll help us overcome Satan here real quick.
M.
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 Yeah. M for the message, the modern Messiah, the meaning, the me,
The mess.
the mess, the moment, the miracle,
Munchies.
the mind. Harvey.
I said munchies.
The munchies. Yeah. Yeah. Is it 420 yet?
Close.
Yeah, this really is just a place to explore, express, enjoy each other's company, but I wouldn't say frivolously. I would say that there's a depth here. There's a directness that we all sense. We don't need someone on a podium to be handing out the wafer of Shaktipat. For those who want that, that's great. I'm sure I'll wind up in 10 more satsangs in the next year or two that where I'm receiving a Shaktipat. Maybe I feel it, maybe I don't. And then it passes. Great. I'll probably fall in love again, and then maybe I'll break up again, with someone. Great. It's just life. It's like the waves of the ocean. Let's see what's newest on YouTube. Let's see. What life is can't be known yet. Life is all there is. What more is there to say? So we're already there. Wonderful news. Seems that some know that and some don't. How does that knowing show up in the relative sense as relief or happiness? Oh, that's a great question from Lily. Yeah, someone else maybe. I mean, Benjamin, you're still unmuted. In response to that question, if someone were to ask you, how does knowing show up in the relative sense as relief or happiness? How would you respond to that?
I think of it as just do what you want to. It's like the lack of asking permission. I don't have to ask permission because I'm here. So then it's just, I just do what I want to. And it has a kind of, I don't know what's going on either with it. So this is me doing what I want to, hanging out with you guys. And then there's this little thought, oh, I'm going to go for a bike ride because I want to, just do what I want to. Just keep doing what I want to. Chill out and have fun and relax because there's nothing to actually find other than whatever this is. And it doesn't hold still. So I don't get to know it. I just get to be it. But just play, do what you want to. Actually do what you want to. Stop asking permission and do what you want to.
Yeah, that reminds me of Bashar. I heard Bashar, this channeled entity, which I think is humanity 3,000 years in the future or something like that, called Bashar. So if you're not stoned already, maybe you feel stoned after hearing that sentence. But yeah, Bashar, his mantra is to tell people to follow their highest excitement. And this has trickled down into the Bentinho message. Bentinho says this too, to follow your highest excitement. This is, and of course, Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. And what you just said, it felt very authentic and it resonated what you said, Benjamin, like just do what you want to. Well, Benjamin, I guess to play devil's advocate, what would you say to someone that were to reply to that? Well, I can't do what I want to. I'm stuck in a situation where I can't do what I want to. Or if they were to say, I want to feel bliss or enlightenment or something like that, and I can't experience that. So in that sense, I'm stuck seeking and I can't get what I want to. What would you say to either of those responses?
Well, this is it. This is the way it is. And the idea that I have to change this somehow creates more obstacle than just going, okay, that's how it is right now. But at the same time, like, what am I defining those things I think I want as? You know, like if I have a concept of what I'm looking for, kind of like Michael said, like I must be making that up in some way. Enlightenment is something I hear about. I didn't invent it. I heard about it. So then why am I taking it seriously? I also heard about Santa Claus. I also heard about God. I heard about et cetera, et cetera. We all hear about stuff. America, Japan, Mars. We have these wonderful things we hear about, but what's the truth of any of it? You know, so I don't know. I don't know, period. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of this Terrence McKenna quote I saw recently. It was, you know, what your felt experience in your body is all that you know. All else appears as unconfirmed rumor.
Mm.
Well, I've come to believe that everyone is always doing exactly what they want to do. They just didn't know that that's what they had wanted to do. But if they give that power away to somebody else and say, somebody's making me do it, or the culture, or my parents, or my job, or my siblings, or somebody else, is, you're in a sense putting them in the driver's seat of your life and not being willing to own and take responsibility for the unfolding of your own dream. And so I think it's important to say, hey, I'm choosing this. This is what's showing up, even though I don't know and am somewhat unwilling and reluctant to acknowledge that I am choosing this. At some level, this is what I want because this is what I'm getting.
Well, yeah, Harvey, our resident philosophy professor, is this existentialism, Harvey? Is that what Chuck is describing? Taking ownership of what's happening and to say what's happening is what I want.
In a sense, yes, without getting philosophical necessarily, but I think it was, but sort of when I listened to Chuck, it reminded me of what Werner Erhard said way back when: choose what is, and just if you choose what is to be what, that's what is anyway. So you might as well choose it because you already chose it. Was something he said. There's a kind of serenity in that. But in an existential sense, once you say, I didn't do it, or somebody did it to me, or some entity is making me do it, it's called bad faith. And it's bad faith because in a way, you disempower. There's a disempowerment in that. And in a sense, if one can, in a sense, realize that whatever situation you're in, you are the space for that to be, or responsible in a very deep sense. And that really allows, in a way, for seeing that you are that which unfolds. So that's my sort of non-philosophical interpretation of it. But I do think it's important in a very human way and in a pragmatic way to realize that there may be no doer or no chooser individually ultimately, but there's also a kind of disempowerment when we say, well, that's not me, it's something else. And then that not only is dualistic, but there's a disempowerment in that as well. And a lot of people disempower themselves or latch on to some ideology so that they feel that they don't have to choose or be responsible. So that goes on too.
Yeah, I would agree. There's great power in acknowledging that you are the source of your feelings and whatever, because then in the acknowledgement of that, you're also acknowledging that if you want to choose to do something else, you can do that too. You acknowledge that I'm in the driver's seat of my life, as illusory as that may be. I think it's important, at least it has been for me, to hold myself responsible for the unfolding and occasional unraveling of my life. even though I have no control over that, I'm still responsible for it. And that's, again, that paradox of 100% responsibility and zero control.
Yeah, one could say that responsibility starts with the willingness to be the space for what is, or the context for what is, even if it's not understood in the mind. But that, in that sense, the responsibility is that it's, another way of saying it is that you are the world and the world is you. But to look at it and to say, yeah, I'm the space for that which is here. But the I is not the individual I. It's that's responsibility, to start looking at it's all me.
Yeah, you're the empty stage upon which the dramas and psychodramas of your life are enacted. And you know, you just are the space that all that shows up in.
Yeah.
Great discussion, you two. That's, oh. Gonna have to pass it off.
Yeah. We are the movie screen in which those dramas of life take place on and in.
So I guess Art had to exit stage left.
Apparently he's on, but his camera's off and his audio's off.
Does anyone else have any burning desire to share something that's shown up in the last hour and a half or so? Anything that's arisen?
Randy, you look like you have something.
Yeah. I've been exploring, it's almost like there's a distinction between what I want and oh.
Is there anything else? Am I missing something?
Randy, you disappeared.
Oh.
He went back to the conscious space. But maybe a good question is, in a sense, is that to take a look at a question, can we be the space for what is? Sometimes it's good to ask that to take our power, so to speak, back to, I'll call it ourselves. Not to completely project onto everybody else or something else, but to say, hey, I am the space for that. And there's a kind of empowerment, I think, that's available in that.
Yeah.
There's Art. He's back.
I'm back. Yeah, so I wanted to read Ria's comments. I have heard of this book. Existential Kink addresses this and has great meditations. Yeah, I've heard of that book. But Ria, would you like to share or say anything about it, or?
No, y'all were just talking about like the subconscious and how everything unfolds exactly as it should, because it's exactly what we wanted, or all of that. So sometimes, though, logistically speaking, we make things more difficult on ourselves than they need to be. So that's a good book that I found on those meditations, to really look at the subconscious and what it is, to get in line with what, the different parts of me, what my conscious and subconscious wants, get them on the same page, so to speak, whatever that means. So that's
Great.
all.
Yeah, thanks. So Yeah, so for just so everyone knows, the book is called Existential Kink by Caroline Elliott. So, all right, so welcome, Phyllis. Good to have you here. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kathy would, oh, I think I already asked. Randy left. He must have lost his connection. Sounded like he was talking to one of you. Right. Well, here we are. Lance, you're on camera. What do you like to share?
I just want to express my gratitude for you, Art, and everybody in the group and everybody that shared. I just really appreciate listening to the different perspectives of everything. So
Awesome. Thanks, Lance. Appreciate you, buddy. So some other YouTube comments from Natural Freedom. Every human wants to make an instruction and tell others to follow it. It is the nature of being human. I think in our time, humanity reached a level that there is no need of instruction to live life, I guess, any longer. Okay. Interesting. Cheel says, knowing is limited, not knowing is limitless. Yeah. Changing Ears says, if no one has control, then who can have responsibility? If no one has control, then who can have responsibility? Yeah, I mean, this brings to mind for me surrender. You know, when people would ask Ramana about surrender and they would say, I'm still suffering, you know, and he would say, well, you haven't surrendered fully. You surrender fully, then there's no one left to suffer, no one left to complain. I mean, it's kind of an extreme way to put it. Just like all the non-dual speakers. I was listening to a little bit of Naho's meeting yesterday, and somebody said they were frightened of her, you know? And they didn't know why. Yeah, I guess the death of a me that never existed can seem frightening. But when it's seen through, it has the freedom to be exactly as it is. It's both the me and the no me. You don't get somewhere by realizing there's no me. You just get back where you started and you get to enjoy the me that's not really there, except it also is there. Houston, would you like to share anything else?
Not really, just thank you and appreciation to everyone. I enjoyed it all and I still do, and it's pleasurable. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like me saying that there's a me at all, it's like the equivalent in some non-dual circles of saying to worship Satan or something. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah, there's a me. There's a me. Like, I get my feelings hurt. I get sad. I get happy. That's a me. But what is it? I don't know. Can I find it? No. I mean, you can call it life living itself, universe. You could say this is all apparently happening. There's a me. There just is. It's not, but there also isn't, because you can't find it. And it's like the Thich Nhat Hanh, interbeing. There's no, I can't have this hand. Oh, that's funny. Houston, you just raised yours. Yeah, but I can't have this hand without the rest of the body, you know? How could anything exist without everything else? This is wholeness appearing as the play of everything. Houston.
I noticed, I was just happened to notice today, I was going through my Facebook feed and there were, for some reason, it was a different feed on my phone than on the computer, but on the phone, I got 2 or 3 different people doing like a religious, a Christian type service, and they were using the Christian terminology that it's hard. You have to know the jargon to be in on the jargon. And I realized every group, non-duality, has the same sort of jargon that if you're not in on the jargon, you don't understand what's going on. And it just struck me as humorous that you see it. I mean, it was just humor today that I saw that, and it just kind of made me chuckle that I saw the same thing that I see taking place in, whether it's somebody that's teaching a sales class or training about something. Everybody uses their own type of terminology to try and be understood within the context that they're speaking in. And that was just a fascinating observation that came up, just hit me that, oh yeah, I saw that today.
Yeah. So with that in mind, Houston, you have a background with Christianity, and how do you combine what you know now with the way the Christian model? How would you frame this in the Christian model?
Well, even in the Christian model, I was considered, I like the word you used one time, strange, because in the Christian model, plus having a piled higher and deeper in comparative religions, even made me even stranger. But in the Christian model, it's always fascinating to me that, say you've got 100 things that all the different denominations agree to, but they disagree on, say, 4 or 5 of all the 100. And so they separate based on those 4 or 5. And you have anywhere from 3,000 to 30,000 different separate denominations just in Christianity. And they all speak their own, quote, language. They're similar words, but they all have different meanings, such as I used to tell the story that I grew up in Church of Christ, which I said, we're just like the Catholics, we just don't suit up, and we don't have to exercise as much. We don't get down and get up and stand, but we believe in the Church of Christ, they believe they're the only ones going to be in heaven. So each denomination, no matter what it is, they have their own terminology that they communicate to each other with. Everybody communicates except Baptists when they get caught in a liquor store. So it just struck me as humorous then. And then when you were talking, Art, when you said something, it just came up. I just remembered that I had watched these people and I was sitting there listening to them, and I noticed how odd the language sounded. And there was a time back when I was, quote, in non-denominationalism, we had our own terminology as well. And it's amazing. It just brings back the amazement of communication and how we try to use it. And it just struck me as humorous. That's all. I mean,
yeah. It's the Tower of Babel.
Yeah. Even in the same language, it's not being Spanish or Japanese or Russian or French. It's just, even in English, it's so humorous. But I just struck me that each context has its own language code, I guess is a good word.
Yeah.
That happened a lot when I was doing therapy, and I think Chris will bear me out on that if you're using a particular tool, a particular modality with a client, you're obliged, and it's necessary to acquaint them with the words that you're using. You know, if you're using transactional analysis or Gestalt or subpersonalities or Jungians, you have to kind of lay the groundwork. And once that's handled, then you can kind of go into it, and everybody's speaking the same language, but you have to prep them almost for it. I've gotten away from that particular practice for years and years and years. So, but that is often still the case.
One of the things I used to do, because I mean, I'd still do it if it's required, because I used to speak in front of groups and do quote therapy and coaching or whatever, is I would say the same things, but use their terminology. If, for example, if it's Christian, I'd use Christian terminology. If it was New Age, I'd use New Age terminology. If it was psychology, I'd try to use psychology. If it was sales, I try to use the sales terminology. And so I sort of, Chuck, I understand. I mean, this morning, it just struck me as really humorous, because I'd basically, like you said, it's been a long time since you've done it. It's been a while since I've actually consciously thought about it. But this morning when I heard that, I'm going, and I'm hearing stuff that I'd heard before, but I hadn't heard it in so long. It was one of those pie in the face moments, you know. So that's what happened this morning.
You know, when we use like different religious groups and so on use different words, and then they have their own specific meanings, as you
Yes.
pointed out, Houston, and that I think also is sort of in a way is the way we create our me, the sense of the me, because we create the meaning. We may use common words, but the meaning that you notice with each, let's say, denomination, creates a kind of further separation.
Yes.
So we know what those words mean to us. Our words, our meanings are the right ones, of course, depending on the denomination. And that causes a separation. And in a way, it actually creates a kind of a pseudo sense of a me, the me being this group, and nobody can understand us but me.
Correct. And I take it even further, that all the way down to the actual individual. Each individual, we do that, and we communicate, and we think everybody else understands what we're saying because we're using our terminology, and they're taking our words and putting their meaning on it. And we may or may not agree, but we think we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So we have an English teacher with her hand raised. Phyllis, would you like to share on meaning and words or anything?
I'm sorry that I got on very late, huh? But just what you were talking about, this sort of impossibility to communicate, or the difficulty, you know, the sort of we talk about the incredible lightness of being. It's sort of like the incredible difficulty of explaining. It's so anything is so hard to explain to another, given their particular framework. Being a Baptist, Lutheran, non-duality, or just to have a common language is so difficult, and that the fact that we can even understand anything at all that someone else is saying is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And to further a bit reiterate and I'd say confirm what Harvey was saying, as soon as we have that jargon, and I see it at the university too, you have the PhDs with their jargons. As soon as you're at the in-group, if you're in the in-group, you have a certain amount of words that you toss around, and that identifies you as part of that clan. So it's almost like a mammal thing, a wolf clan or a tiger clan, or those words increase, as Harvey said, they kind of glorify the me. It becomes a collective me who has that that collective belief system. So instead of a group kind of getting away from its identification, the fact of having that group or using of that common language is actually sabotaging the I'd say, what can we call it? The quest for non-identification or something like that, because it further identifies us. It's kind of a paradox we can't get out of, those words. Yeah,
You
that
get trapped.
paradox. Yeah,
You get trapped in the jargon.
yeah. Or it's trapped wherever you go. You're gonna. There's a trap waiting where whatever you say, it's someone someone will everyone will understand it at their level of consciousness, with their beliefs. So it's just like the cloud of unknowing. It's almost like the less we speak, the less misunderstanding there is. Because the community, and we keep trying because we love it. We love it. So we keep trying to do it. And that's the beauty in that.
Yeah. 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 Wonderful, Phyllis. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, there's a beauty in the trying. That's the play of Leela, the dance of life. Garish.
Hello. I have one question about for Houston and Chuck, because they are two senior people. Why today the religion people or religious organization fail to give human values to our society? And how you see, or you both, Houston and Chuck?
Well, I'd like to comment on this first. I'm just my own opinion. How do we know what failure or success looks like? What's the end point? So it does seem like all systems fail and need to be improved. That's just the nature of life. That's what evolution is. Everything dies and new things are born out of its ashes. Things seem to fail a little bit harder when they cling to things that are obviously not working. But at the same time, how do we know what failure or success looks like? We never know what will lead to what. And Chuck, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that we know when things don't work. That's the fact, but the judgment is they've failed. And I think that makes the difference between it. Yeah. But to say something is right or wrong or good or bad, I don't know. All you just know is what works. This works, this worked, and this didn't. But the overlay of the judgment is where, the ego rears its head and wants to put things in some kind of box or hierarchy.
Yeah, when I took sociology in college, the very first thing you learn in Sociology 101 is that there's two basic ways to look at humans, as a whole. You could either look at it in this utilitarian method, or there's some other word for it too, functionalism, where everything is working as well as it is. The fact that everything is working as well as it is amazing and beautiful, and everything is serving a function. All the things that appear to be failing or not working actually are part of a bigger ecosystem that's existence. It's sort of a non-duality perspective. And and then the other perspective you learn in Sociology 101 in the first week is duality. You learn about Marxism from a sociological perspective, which has less to do with politics. It's just the idea that there's always two opposing forces. And this is like what Socrates basically said, that there has to be a thesis and an antithesis for something new to emerge, called a synthesis. And Harvey, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think you're referring to maybe Hegel. But it reminded me too, when you mentioned functionalism, the thing called entelche, which comes from Aristotle, which says that everything is expressing its purpose. A blade of grass, everything is unfolding, and a tree is unfolding, and a bug is unfolding, and so if you look at that, everything is doing in a sense, it's like everything is unfolding exactly the way it's supposed to. And how do you know? Because that's the way it's unfolding. And if you look at it that way, then you see everything, a piece of lint is unfolding as a piece of lint. Its purpose is to be a piece of lint. And there's a real, I don't know, there's like a real peacefulness in that and serenity in that. And you get to see that, in a sense, it's almost like, I don't know, it just reminded me too of when you mentioned about Satan before being in opposition, the opposer. But even that is what is too. So it's not really opposed. It looks like it, but it's still what is. So anyway, everything's an unfolding of its own being, its own beingness.
Awesome. Randy's back. We have 3 minutes left. Benjamin, you want to roll the 7-sided dice and say something?
Oh, it's M again.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
Repetition. Yeah.
Mystery.
Moon.
Magic.
Mom.
Mother.
Everything is moo, the koan moo.
Moo, moo.
Oh, right. Yes, very good.
Mahadeva.
Is that Lance? Lance, what? I missed the one you said, Lance. That's okay.
Mahadeva.
What does that mean? I don't know that.
Oh, it's just it's in the song I sing, the Shiva Shambho, Mahadeva Shambho.
Mahadeva is the name for Shiva. Hindu god Shiva. Mahadeva means the god, great god, like.
Some magical, mysterious words like moo. Yeah. Yeah. What's the Zen koan, Harvey? It's a cat makes a sound moo, or
It's somebody talks to Joshua, and says, does a dog have Buddha nature or not? And his answer in Japanese is moo, or in Chinese, woo. But everybody gets stuck on the question, and it's not really the question that matters. It's sort of just the moo. It's like, what is moo? But as it turns out, moo is everything and nothing.
How did I forget music and movies? There's no modern life. Sorry.
I remember having this conversation with Harvey a long time ago, I think, when I was still in Arizona. And after we say something is moo, we can also say it is moot. M-O-O-T. Everything is moot. Huh? Nothing is as it is. It's just moot. Everything is questioning, or relevant and irrelevant. It's a moot point. It's all moot. Muddy moot.
Beautiful. Well, this is a perfect note to end on, Phyllis. It's all moot. Now we will go mute. Yeah, thank you everyone for an awesome meeting today. Yeah. Thanks for everyone listening.
Thanks, Art.
Thanks, Houston.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Girish.
Yeah, bye, everybody. Lots of love, huh?
Bye, Philip.
Bye.
Thank you, Art. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Chris. Emerson, are you gonna stop the stream?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Emerson.